And welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz, and we've reached the point in the show where it's time to play the feud. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to play daily fantasy and let you know exactly who you should get in and out of your fantasy lineups. And again, the options, folks, they are super thin, okay? It's just that point in the season. For a lot of people, just saying, for a lot of people, George, this is the final week of the daily fantasy season. Some people don't like to play that AFC and NFC championship slate, and then certainly it's the captain spot or, the majors, whatever they call it for the Super Bowl. For DFS, for me, this is it. This is the pinnacle of the season. So let's get to it here. Let's take a look at the wide receiver options. This is for the Saturday slate, afternoon. Saturday and Sunday slate. Sorry about that. I should have known here when I saw Puka Nacua on my screen. It wasn't a tip-off for me, though. Nico Collins, 7,600. We'll start off there. Puka Nacua, 7,400. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 72. A.J. Brown reading books at 7,000. McLaurin again at 6,300. What am I missing here? Do they not like this guy on FanDuel? Jameson Williams, DraftKings, 6,100 for Jameson Williams. And then Zay Flowers for 5,900. If you end up playing a head-to-head league this week against Zay Flowers, you're going to win because Zay Flowers is probably not going to He's doubtful to play. But what am I missing here? Why is McLaurin 6,300? I don't get it.
Neither do I. Once again, this is by far what should be the highest scoring game this weekend. It's also being played indoors. All right, we're not worried about weather in this game. All right, so I'm with you here. McLaurin, I think, has to go at 6,300 here. I think you look at St. Brown at 7,200 as well. The only thing with St. Brown is because of the running game there. It could be a little tougher to get touchdowns. Not really going to go at the Nico here. Listen, Nico's great, no doubt, but I don't see that game being a high-scoring game. Maybe he gets in the end zone, maybe he doesn't. This game smells to me like 24-20, 24-21, 24-8, somewhere around there, around the 40-point mark here. So I'm not looking great. Nacua, once again, love him as well, but that Eagles secondary is tough. We could be playing in snow, a little cold here. No, thank you. I do like Jameson Williams. Once again, I'm going to this game, Craig. I think this is kind of easy here. I'm expecting 7 touchdowns in this game combined. So Jameson, if he's in the open field and that Washington secondary is not very good, if he's even, he's leaving. It's really that simple here. So give me Williams and McLaurin. Those two guys that stick out the most for me. I just think they're going to have really solid games here.
Yeah, I do too. I think it'll be a fantastic game for McLaurin. I got Washington winning, so I do think that even him, and I'm going to go over another receiver who I like today here on the show, and by the way, doesn't factor in even to the tier 2 DFS wide receivers. Devonta Smith, I don't like any of these guys. Devonta Smith, 5,600. Cooper Kupp, no thanks, 54. Worthy, little temptation here, 5,200. He got late in the season. Shakir is a very big boomer bust. Bateman, the same at 4,900. Hopkins, no chance, 4,700. Amari Cooper, no chance for me at 4,400. When we get to the next board is where I think I'm going to take my shots here, George. I guess Worthy is the one that I feel the most comfortable with, but it's, George, we got to forget about this. It is playoff time, right? Like, it is Kelsey time. It is, Pacheco time. I think Mahomes goes to his go-to playoff guys in this stretch.
Worthy was really good at the end of the season here. He was really good here. But we're also, as you said, and I agree with you, by the way. All right, and you left out a couple of guys. Hopkins is there. Marquise Brown is there. He said extra time to work. Well, they haven't played since Christmas. It's been 3.5 weeks. Time to get these guys in here. I don't think Worthy's a deep guy. I think there'll be plays designed for him. Those little plays behind the line of scrimmage, I have no doubt. But it's going to be cold here. I don't know how many deep shots they're going to take here. I think Kelsey is going to have a big game, or at least they're going to try and have Kelsey have a big game. I think you said something I also agree with. I'm probably not touching anybody in this group here. All right, I don't like the Buffalo-Baltimore game with 13 degrees. I don't think I'm taking anybody from that game. It's the next tier where I'll find guys, save a little money at wide receiver so I can spend up at running back.
Yeah, I love some options here in tier 3. You know who I love here. And by the way, I may take a dart and throw it at Hollywood Brown here at 4,200. But I am definitely, absolutely 100% in, George. I don't know who it's going to be, but you see those two guys on Washington. And again, look, I am a homer for Washington, okay? Let's be clear, okay? I have been the Washington homer. But, George, between Zacchaeus and De'Ami Brown, I think one of those guys is going to – I don't know who it's going to be. I think one of those guys is going to cash in on this number today. I'd pass on the rest of this list, but I would maybe do one lineup with Zacchaeus, one lineup with De'Ami Brown, and maybe even pair Hollywood Brown there. I'll pass on Robinson. I'll pass on Mechie. I'll pass on Tim Patrick and Coleman too.
Yeah, I'm okay with you doing as well here. I'm thinking the same thing. I probably lean towards Zacchaeus. I think he's the guy. It was De'Ami Brown, the wild card round, right? He had the big game. So he was good. I keep saying this over and over again. I expect points to be scored. At the over-under is 55.5. Obviously, Vegas thinks points are going to be scored in this game.
Yep.
55.5 puts you at 7 touchdowns. So, yeah, there's a good chance Z is going to score here. Or maybe it's De'Ami Brown. Take your choice. Or you play two different lineups, one with each. I don't have a problem with that either here. If you're asking me which one I prefer over the other, I prefer Z over Brown. But you talk once again, it's just personal preference here. If you're telling me it's Brown over Z, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, again. All right, let's take a look at the running backs here. This is where you got to pick the right one to make money on DFS this weekend. All right, so Barkley is at 8,200, but you're not getting any discount with Henry. So those are the first two. If you don't choose those and you go down to Gibbs, you're counting on 5,700 David Montgomery not coming through. If 5,700 David Montgomery is your guy, then you can pay up to get Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry at 8,000, but you're not going to be able to have two of these first three. So just forget about that. Kyron Williams, 6,900. James Cook coming off a huge week at 6,700. Joe Mixon was questionable all week long, George. I assume he's going to play today. So 6,500, he is there. I think you're only going to be able to afford Barkley or Henry, or maybe even Gibbs, if you want to pair them with David Montgomery, right? Like, I think that's the way that you have to go about it. This is a tough one for me. I think for me, it would be Henry at 8,000 among those first three. I think that's my safest bet. I think I don't think Baltimore's getting blown out. That tells me Henry is safe. What do you think?
I kind of agree with you only because, it's a tush push. Barkley could lose a touchdown or two to a tush push, right? It's annoying, but it's the way that things go about there. But if you want to spend on Barkley, I think he's going to have a bad. I don't think you can go wrong on the first two, right? You're taking one of them. Once again, whichever one you want, I think Barkley's going to have a big game as well. But I tend to lean towards Henry because of that damn tush push. I don't mind Cook either, by the way. If you want to go two middling guys, if you wanted to go Cook and Montgomery, I could sort of see that. But I think Montgomery will be the short yardage guy at the very least. I think Gibbs is going to be a 20 to 20 guy. He's just too good here. I think Montgomery will come back, and he could be that short yardage guy. Not that Gibbs doesn't do that well also. He does, but there's got to be some kind of role for Montgomery here. So I like a lot of these guys. I like Barkley. I like Henry. I like Gibbs. I like Cook. I probably don't like Montgomery as your number one starter to go really cheap here, but I think I think it's going to be big on the running backs here this week.
All right. How about taking a shot, George? Did we get an update? And I'm sorry for not knowing this. Did we get an update on Ray Davis going into this game? Has he been declared out or in one way or the other? Anything specific?
No,
on Ray Davis?
Of course not. They're going to keep you guessing on this. He's listed as questionable.
Nothing. Okay, he's listed as questionable. Let me tell you something. Josh Allen loves Ty Johnson, man. He loves Ty Johnson. He is 4,500 this week. I'm just saying, if I'm putting in a $1 million lineup, I'm throwing in Henry with Ty Johnson on one. I'm looking at the rest of this list. No on Gainwell, no on Hill, no on Hunt, definitely no on Eckler, definitely no, by the way, on Brian Robinson. George, Brian Robinson looks cooked right now. Doesn't look like he could even move.
Yep.
Checo may be the best of these options. I think Ty Johnson at 4,500 is better than everybody else on this list.
Might look at Justice Hill, but I agree with you about Ty, by the way, especially if Ray Davis can't get that clearance by the independent neurologist here. I might look at Justice Hill, but Ty Johnson would be my pick as well.
I agree. All right, so I think we set some good lineups here today, Sam, didn't we? I think we helped people out a little bit. Oh, we got to do tight ends, yeah. We'll do that next. Stick around.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP-caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day. starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically, but mentally by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. All right, so now let's continue to set your daily fantasy lineups, and we're going to pick the tight end position. This is going to be a rare one for me, George, a rare one for me. But today and tomorrow in daily fantasy, I'm paying for the top, and I'm not even thinking twice. It is playoff time. Travis Kelce, did he sleepwalk through this season? That's not fair to say, okay? That's not fair to say. But it was obvious to me, George, that the Chiefs' offense did not run through Kelce for the first time in a long time. It will in the playoffs. I am paying the $5,000. Andrews, 4,500. No thanks on Laporta, 4,200. I've heard some love for Zach Ertz at 4,000. I think he's just very touchdown dependent in DFS. Goddard had that stiff arm in the game of his life last game. That ain't going to happen again. Kincaid, George hates. Forget it. You know that. Likely 3,500. I'm going to have to save elsewhere, George. I'm paying for Kelce. It's playoff time. I'm paying this week. If they win, I'm paying in the AFC Championship. I'm paying in the Super Bowl. Just look at the Super Bowl last year. It's his time. This is like the Dodgers or the Lakers or whatever, the NBA playoff team that sits their guys a lot for the season, and all of a sudden they show up in the playoffs. How many times is this going to happen for the rest of Kelce's career? I don't know. Maybe once more, maybe twice, but I think his time is now.
I don't need to bring up the Dodgers. A lot of hatred for the Dodgers, the Sasaki signing there, right? So it's a different show, I guess. I'm trying to find someone else other than Kelce because I agree with you. Andrews, I can't do. Like I said, weather's it's gonna be a rough passing game tomorrow night. I don't want any pass catchers tomorrow night. Kincaid, maybe the player I hate most in the NFL because he cost me money this year by just being a dud. So not going with him. Laporta. Now Laporta's somewhat interesting. He has played better of late. So I think if I need to save the money, that might be where I go. Although I like Ertz a bunch as well. Daniels looks for Ertz. He looks for him early and often here. You said it about Goddard having the game of his life last week. That stiff arm, I think I forget who the defender is, but he's still having nightmares about that. It was a really nice play. If you're not going to go Kelce, I said it would either be Laporta or Ertz, and same reason. I love this Washington Detroit game. I'm obviously going to have a stack in this game, by the way, in one of my lineups here because I think points are coming here. I just think points are coming much more in this game than any other. I think all the other games could go under this weekend, just sort of like last weekend, where they all went under except for the one game I thought would go. It was a bad weekend, total-wise for me. I think I was on the wrong side of every game. I bet unders when it should have been overs and overs when it should have been unders. So it was just a frustrating day. So what I'm trying to say is I agree with you. Kelce would be my choice, and I think you're absolutely right. Your analysis there. It's when he's going to go. And I think, by the way, Houston's good secondary. They'll man up on the outside. I think then they're going to – Kelsey is sort of dying by the knife, right? You don't want to die by the long pass to Worthy here. You don't want Hopkins to beat you, but you'll take the little 7 to 8 passes to Kelsey. You're going to have to live with those.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're on the same page with tight end. Now, quarterback is, clearly, for me, you look at the pricing and it tells you that a lot of these guys are probably going to do the same thing, especially the top three. And that's why when we went over on FanDuel and we were looking at the 2+ touchdowns or the 1+ touchdowns, this is where it factors in. So Lamar Jackson is at 7,800. Josh Allen is at 7,700. So take your coin and flip it, because these guys generally are the same in fantasy. Look at the stats over the course of the year. You try to give the MVP to one of the two. Why? Because Lamar Jackson had better stats over the course of the year? Yes, he did. Josh Allen didn't play in the last game. That's the reason why. I've said it before. They're co-MVPs for me in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, if you needed to save some money, he's down to 7,000. I think that's a fine choice, too, against Detroit. George seems to be a little sour on Jalen Hurts. I don't know your opinion on that game. We haven't hit your opinion specifically on that game, but he's at 6,800. Goff is at 6,300. Mahomes is at 6,000. What about Matthew Stafford? Oh, my gosh, don't show him these prices today. Matthew Stafford, George, he's going to be insulted. 5,200? 2,600 less than Lamar Jackson for Matthew Stafford at Philadelphia today. I think the issue is here for the Rams, George. I don't know if they're going to win or cover or whatever. It seems like Philly's got the best defense going right now in the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, I think Philly does have the best defense going in the playoffs right now. Plus, hey, Rams traveling once again cross country. We know everything that's going on in LA. Best wishes for everybody out there. But it's going to be a tough environment. The last time the Rams played in bad weather, granted it was rain, not snow, but it was that Thursday night game against San Fran, and they looked awful. They won the game, but that was a horrific game. I know it was a Thursday night game. It's a little bit different here, but I don't have much faith in the Rams. I think, by the way, the Rams tomorrow will be a big Kyron Williams game, not so much the passing game here. So I'm not going to go with Stafford, even at the cheap price here. Not going Mahomes. I don't see the big gain coming from him. I think you know where I'm going here. All right, it's Goff, 6,300. He's that guy we said during the prop special, right? Yeah, he could get 3 touchdowns. This would not shock anybody. I think they're scoring minimum 4 touchdowns tomorrow. Detroit, maybe 5. Hell, 6 wouldn't shock me. We know Campbell likes to run it up. So I'm going to go Goff here at 63. I think my second choice would be Jaden Daniels at 7. Get that rushing yards. He's going to have to run the ball, right? He's going to have to run to keep those chains moving here. He's going to let it go. I'm not taking the top 2 guys here, Jackson or Allen. I just don't think there's going to be big games, and not through the air. Maybe on the ground it will be, but 13 degrees is going to be hard to throw that football. And by the way, as for my MVP, I have Lamar Jackson. Hey, all his numbers are better than Josh Allen's, but this could very well come down to what your definition of most valuable is, not numbers. But these guys have, and by the way, if it was a tie, I would have no issue with it.
The voters would have to make it a tie, right? Like that's what would have to happen here. Could it be? I think it should be, man. But I mean, what are the odds that happens? That the voters vote exactly for a tie? I certainly hope that is the case. I don't want one of these guys losing out, but that's definitely it. All right, so we've given you the daily fantasy look. We've given you some props over on FanDuel. We're going to continue with this, and we're going to get now. We generally here on FST just focus a lot on fantasy, but because we're sort of limited, let's be real, we're going to dive into a little bit of the betting aspect. We are a sports wagering information network, so we're going to help you out, see if we can come up with some picks. For those of you who watched last week's show, I won every game for you guys here last week. I never say that, okay? But I was right on every single game except for Monday night. I was totally wrong. So I'm going to see if I can have a repeat performance, which means you should go opposite this week. And George, go opposite. Oh, George was horrible last week, so maybe he'll get it right this week. We'll be back with more fantasy sports today when we return right after this quick timeout, exclusively here on SportsGrid.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day. starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home, and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically, but mentally by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. Let's get into the games today. Of course, we have full coverage coming this afternoon. Pro Football Today back on the air. So let's get started. And first game of the day in our divisional betting preview is the Texans and Chiefs. So let's get started here. Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. The last total I saw this morning at 5 o'clock in the morning when Sam told us we have a show today was 41.5. That's the same total? Thanks. 41.5. Chiefs minus 8.5 in this game. So let's play it out, George. How does this go? By the way, which game was it? It was the Buffalo Denver game. You know what? Did you guys want to play this back on the show? I said that Denver takes a 7-0 lead. The Bills score at 7-3, 10-7. I couldn't believe it worked out exactly the way that I said it. George, this is exactly the blueprint for the Buffalo Denver game. This is the Chiefs Texans game. That's what's going to happen. I think today. I think the Texans are going to jump on top. They're going to take a 3-0 lead or 7-0 lead. Everyone laying the points with the Chiefs is going to be freaking out. But they just put you to sleep, man. It's like they put you in that chokehold, and then it's 7-7, and then it's 10-7, it's 17-7, and then Stroud throws a pick 6. You're like, oh my gosh, I bet the wrong side. Now, truth be told, Chiefs have been horrible at covering the spread this week. Do they do it this week against the Texans?
First off, make sure your shoulder's okay. Don't dislocate it.
I never do that. The whole season. No. I never pat myself on the back. Anybody who watches SportsGrid, is that Sam yelling? Come on. I never do that on this show. Never. I always say I was wrong. I was really good last week. I had a really good week. Sorry. Go ahead, George. Sorry. Go ahead.
Listen, Sam, I've been plotting his death since about 6 a.m. this morning when he sent the text. So really, both of you out with the bathwater here. Anyway, all year long it's been the same story with Kansas City. They win, they don't cover. I think it's the same thing today. All right, 8.5 seems a lot. Houston's is not a bad team, and I don't think Kansas City is a great team, by the way. I also wonder, Craig, could Kansas City get off to a slow start here? Maybe we want to take the under in the first quarter. They haven't played since Christmas. This is December 25th. It's 3.5 weeks. It's a long time without playing football here. So, I like the Kansas City to win, Houston to cover here. Lower scoring game, so I'm going to take the under. It's a low total, 41.5. All right, minus 110, so you're playing the same juice whether you take the over or the under here. I think we'll get a better feel of this game in-game. But pre-game, under, Kansas City to win, Houston to cover.
Kansas City win, Houston to cover. I don't know. I think we're going head-to-head. All right, I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus the points. I'm going to assume that this weekend, now I think personally that we got 4 games. I think there's going to be one big upset. I know the numbers state that teams that I think are a touchdown or more in the divisional round are 19-0. That's scary. That's scary. Usually I'm letting the trend be my friend. I'm not going to do that this week. I'm going to say that 2 of the 4 favorites win, one big upset, and I have no idea who's going to win on Sunday night. Now, I'm going to make a pick here on the show, okay? But, George, to me, that game, I almost don't want to pick it because I don't want to be watching the game thinking I got to get this right. I mean, to me, I'm going over on that total. We'll do that coming up next because I just want that to happen. I don't – the NFL generally, more than half the time when they set up these crazy great matchups like on Sunday night, more than half the time they come through. There are some times that they don't. And as we saw last weekend in the wild card round, let's be real. How many get half or duds? More than half or duds. I think we'll get one really epic game this weekend, what I'm hoping for.
Last week in the wild card round, 4 to 5 with duds. And the scary thing was last year, the average point difference in the wild card round was 17 points. This year it was 15. So it's actually better this year. They were a 4 to 5 with duds. The only good game was the Monday night game here. Real quickly on the Buffalo game, I think it's going to be an under. 51.5. It's 13 degrees. All right, they're not throwing the ball down the field here. And these defenses are pretty good here. I'm going to go the under in that game here. As you're saying, though, I keep flip-flopping on that game, Craig. It's Baltimore. No, Buffalo. No, I keep changing my mind who's going to win. Should be right now, if you're going to talk to me, though, probably going Buffalo. Next segment, though, I might tell you Baltimore.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to make my picks next. So take a quick time out here on the show. And we'll be back with more fantasy sports today. We'll recap our betting previews of the Commanders and Lions tonight. You guys know which way I'm going. Rams and Eagles, Ravens and Bills. We'll have that and a whole lot more next year on FST.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP-caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home, and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically but mentally, by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, here we go. The game of the night here on SportsGrid, FST, all of it. For me, it's the Commanders and Lions. Now, for those of you who've been watching since the beginning of the season, I was the crazy one that had Washington going to the Super Bowl. Yep, that was me. So I was laughed at. I was childed, said it's never going to happen. But meanwhile, Washington is 2 wins away from making that happen. Now, I was not crazy enough to think that Washington could beat Buffalo or the Ravens or any team like that. But I'm going to stick with my guns, as they say, and I'm going to take these 9.5 points. I believe without a shadow of a doubt, this game is going to be close. I mean, Washington has played the most close games in the NFL this season. Why would this be any different? Why? Everyone's so impressed with Detroit after they win over Minnesota. How did Minnesota look this past week? I think the Commanders have a great shot to win this game and pull off the big upset. And I would be a little worried about them playing Philly because Philly's defense is so good. But I will say this, George, Washington's going to score points today. And I think this is going to be a great game. I think this has a chance to be the best game of the weekend. The Lions defense is just really banged up. And they had a hard time stopping anybody toward the end of the season. I think that plays itself out today. Give me the Commanders. Give me the points. Plus 350, 400 on the money line too. I'm all in on Washington.
Boy, I thought Matthew Berry was a big Washington Commanders fan. It's Craig Mish. And we start calling the show, by the way, forget Fantasy Sports Saints. This is the Craig Mish toots his own horn show. That being said, he's not lying. He's been on Washington all season long. I've had to hear it all season long, and he's been right. Which, by the way, hurts because he's right. It also hurts because I'm a Cowboy fan. I don't want to hear it anymore. All right, but I disagree about the game. I think Detroit takes care of business. I think there are points coming tonight. I think we do get our over. I think you've seen this before with wild card teams throughout years. Teams that come out of nowhere. Yeah, they win the wild card round, and the divisional round, they get their doors blown off. All right, so sort of that here. That being said, I don't think they get crushed, but 38-23, 41-24 gives me my over, gives me all the touchdowns I want. And I want lots of touchdowns tonight because I think tonight's a heavy prop night. All right, so I'm on Detroit to cover here. I'm on the over. I'm on every prop imaginable here. If you're going for an anytime scorer, by the way, this is nuts. Everybody on Detroit is minus money. It's crazy. You either got to go first touchdown scorer or you got to parlay them. Listen, Gibbs, minus 220. Montgomery, 160. St. Brown, 135. The best number you're getting here is Jameson Williams, which, by the way, I'm on. He's the only plus guy, plus 130. I'll take that he gets in the end zone here. But like I said, I think there's 7 to 8 touchdowns coming tonight. I love this game. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. It's going to be old-fashioned game. Throw the football. Let's see what happens here. I don't know if either team can really stop the other. I do think Detroit will get more starts than Washington. One thing that concerns me, Craig, is both these coaches are loco, right? They're nuts. If I get screwed out of my over, going for it on 4th and 8 at the 22-yard line over and over again, I'm losing my 3 points. I'm going to be angry tonight. I'm going to be angry. You're going to hear about it on Twitter. But other than that, it should be a fun game.
Washington's been going for it every 4th down and not getting it, and getting near the goal line and not scoring. Like, they've had a lot of problems in the red zone because Robinson just doesn't look like the guy now that he was at the beginning of the season. I mean, I think that's fair. But I don't know. It seems like a storybook kind of year for them. But maybe it comes to an end. But I think they got another one in them, as Vince Carter once said. All right, Rams and Eagles. Let's go here. This one for me is pretty clear cut. I look, maybe I'm not the right one to talk to because this is the one that I was just so mercifully wrong last week, thinking the Vikings. I mean, this game was over. What would you say, George? 5 minutes into the game? Like, you just knew, okay, this is not happening. Taking Minnesota was absolutely the wrong side. They never really fought. They never really came back in the game. I know they were trying, but it didn't even seem like they were trying. The Rams were so much better. Didn't even have a home game. Having to get out of the way of those fires. Got to give McVay and the Rams a lot of credit. But for me, it's the Eagles' defense. The Rams still can't score. Like, it's not like their offense is so good. Verse had a defensive touchdown last week. I don't see the Rams team total coming in. I don't see this game total coming in. I like the under in this one. Close one for me. I think Philly probably wins and covers, but under is what I like most.
I agree with everything you said. I don't really have much to add here. All right, I like Philly. I like the under here. I think it is going to be a closer game. I just think Philly's the better team. I think they don't match up well all that much at all here. So, listen, Barkley should have a big game. Will I bet an anytime touchdown for Hurts? Yeah, but tush push and all that. That's probably about it, other than Barkley bets here. For the Rams, do I think Nakua could get over his receptions? Maybe, but they're going to be heavy on him. And if Kupp is not a threat, he hasn't been a threat. This could be a big Kyron Williams game for the Los Angeles Rams here. So, yeah, give me the Eagles. Give me the under here. Good teaser opportunity, right? You want to get the Eagles down just ahead. Just have to win the game. Yeah. Right, so that's another place to go.
Yeah, a lot of people seemingly on teasers this week because they're not really sure which direction. One prop I liked last week, and it didn't really mention it, honestly, so let's just say I didn't like it. But that I do like again this week is Higbee. It seems like Higbee is like big time part of this offense now, more so than Kupp. And remember, Higbee missed the majority of the season, came back just for the end of the season in the postseason. So maybe that is the direction to go as far as props. All right, final game of the day. Final game of the weekend, Sunday night. I think the final game of the weekend is Monday night. We're not even going to touch on Ohio State, Notre Dame, which to me is a classic showdown here on Monday night too. But it is a long weekend for a lot of people, so they'll get to stay up Sunday night. I'll be watching. You'll be watching. The world will be watching the Ravens and Bills. Again, I think this will be the highest rated divisional game ever on any NFL game that we've ever seen. What a great matchup between these two teams, George. I am hopeful each team scores their 3 touchdowns, and this one comes close to the total. Right now, the Ravens are 1.5-point favorites. My guess is by the time Sunday night comes, it's a 1 or a pick 'em. I think the money's going to come back on Buffalo here again. I just cannot believe if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that the Bills are playing Sunday Night Football divisional round, and they're not a favorite. They're not I mean, it just shows you how well the Ravens have played, but it's sort of hard to believe for me.
Yeah, I think we also have to remember, though, when they played, I think it was week 3, I mean, the Bills got smashed by the Ravens, right? I think that's a lot of where this total comes from as well. The Sharps earlier in the week, when it was the Bills were the favorite, the Sharps went bananas for the Ravens. Yeah, that's what pushed it to where it is. I think you're right. You might get some Buffalo Bills money late here to bring it a little bit. You won't get to where the Bills are favorite. Maybe you get to a point. I don't think it's going to be that heavy here. And that's what's really me towards take the Bills. All right. I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. It is going to be in Buffalo. It's going to be cold. Yes, Baltimore's on the East Coast. It gets cold in Baltimore. Not like it does in Buffalo. All right. Baltimore's pretty much, here. 20 degrees, 25, 28 degrees, about as cold as we get. That's cold. 13 degrees at kickoff, or it'll get colder, which means it'll probably feel like it's in the single digits here. That's a different kind of cold. All right, I don't think we're getting a total here. Not unless we got mistakes where people are fumbling the ball, there's picks or whatever it might be. I just don't think we're going to have that kind of scoring tomorrow night. I don't see that. So I got the under here. I said I keep waffling. I've been waffling all week. Early in the week, I was on Baltimore, and then when I saw the weather, it was one point it was 8 degrees. Now it keeps going up a little bit. I'm like, I think this plays towards Buffalo. I think it's what Buffalo wants. If no one wants to tackle Derrick Henry when it's 8. No one wants to tackle anybody when it's 10 degrees. Okay, you think Josh Allen's gonna be fun to tackle? He's not a big guy. James Cook, remember what he did in that snow game a month ago? He was fantastic here. I think it's going to be a great game, like Craig says. But I'm going to right now, Saturday morning. I'm waffling back to Buffalo. What I'm trying to tell you is I'm not going to have a big bet on the game who wins.
I mean, listen, that's not what we're about here. I mean, if you don't, I mean, I'm giving you my opinion, but this is my least favorite of all of them. I just don't know what the outcome is going to be. Do you think, George, that I'm right? Do you think that this is the highest TV rated game ever in the history of the NFL Sunday night, except for the Super Bowl?
I'll say yes. I think you are. Everyone's looking forward to this game. It's like Dallas and the 49ers in the early 90s.
If you're a sports fan,
what else?
How are you not watching this on Sunday night? And on top of it, there's no work for most people on Monday as we honor Martin Luther King Day. So I don't know. It seems to me, will this get higher ratings than a Super Bowl? I don't know about that.
No.
Highest rated game in the playoffs. All right, buy or sell next.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP caliber quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home, and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically but mentally, by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. As we're getting ready to shut it down here, 10 o'clock Eastern. We're out of here. More fantasy content tomorrow, more football content coming up later today. But first, let's play our game as we get ready to wrap things up with a little buy or sell. This has actually happened before. People are going to look at this and go, what are the odds on this happening? Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, both rushing threats. Derrick Henry has been out of this world over the course of the season, got better as the season went on. Could easily get 100 rushing yards, honestly, on Sunday night. Buy or sell, George? Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry will combine for 200 rushing yards this week. George, you're not allowed to say when I throw it to you, Henry could get it himself. Don't do that. You're not allowed. You're not allowed. You can say anything else. Buy or sell?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, that wasn't what I was going to say. What I was going to say is, I'm still going to say it, is that if Henry doesn't get at least 100 yards, I don't think Baltimore wins. All right, I just don't. I think he has to get over 100. I think it's going to be a heavy run game for both teams here. I said it's the same two guys here. I think this game is determined by the running ability of Henry, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Cook. That's the way I think it's going to be here, because I think throwing the football is going to be very difficult. When it's that cold out, that football literally is a rock. It gets very hard, very slippery. It's hard to throw. I think both players will have trouble throwing the football here. I'm buying this. So I think they do get over 200 yards or damn close to it here. I think it's a run game. I think it's a higher run game than normal because of the situation here as well. And once again, game one, week 3, I know it's forever ago. It doesn't really mean anything. Buffalo was banged up, but Henry ran all over them. Baltimore is certainly going to try to relive that.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, I'm going to go sell. I'm going to go sell. This is too much to buy on. I mean, Derrick Henry 107, 110, Lamar Jackson 70, still doesn't hit 200. Got to sell this.
What they have in game, just for the giggles, what they have in the first time.
No, I mean, come on. I mean, look, they can do it, but I'm going to go against it to start. This is a big number. If they had odds on this on FanDuel, it would be big plus money. It would be more than plus 150. It'd be probably like plus 250, something like that. I got to go sell on this. Probably feel differently about this one. Jaden Daniels and Jared Goff will combine for 500 plus passing yards this week. Tonight's game. I mean, we probably see this exactly the same, George. This is easy for me. What do you got?
By the way, I could have said what you said. By the way, Henry had 199 the first time.
I know. You're not allowed. You're not allowed.
Yeah, so he's not getting 199 tomorrow. At least I doubt it. I think you know where I'm going with this, right? I've been saying it all show long, right? I mean, once again, highest scoring game, 7 touchdowns. Golf should reach this pretty easily. I guess Daniels could miss this because he's rushing for 70 yards. You know, so he throws for 220. And I mean, I could see that, but the way the game script's going to go for me is I think they're going to be trailing. So I think that means Daniels has to throw. I think McLaurin's going to have a big game. You and I both like either Zacchaeus or Davy Brown, maybe both. Zach Ertz, you know, although once again, Detroit generally does very well against the tight ends here. So yes, I'm buying this as well here. I'm being the optimist. Although I'm the first person to tell you, I was wrong on all these totals last week. Like every damn one of them I got wrong. None of these games, but according to the script I was rooting for. So maybe I'll have a little rebound this weekend.
Yeah. I'm going to go easy over on this. And my thought process here is Goff is going to go for 250. Okay. So it's really what Daniels does. And the reason why I like Daniels to hit this number is because of Brian Robinson. George, I don't know what's going on with him, so to speak, but he just has not looked good at all. Like every time he gets the ball, he runs right into the line and goes down. Now, if Robinson goes off for some reason against Detroit, certainly possible. I just think that he's tired. I think I would go under on a lot of his props too. So I'll go over on this. All right, now let's go. And so I'm going to buy. Yeah, buy with the green button. There you go. Okay, now let's go to, this is an interesting one, I think. Nico Collins, the Houston Texans, the go-to receiver for C.J. Stroud, will have the most receiving yards this week. Remember, we've eliminated Justin Jefferson, and we've eliminated CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill and a lot of the main receivers in the NFL. There are still some opportunities left. We definitely have McLaurin in play, Amon-Ra St. Brown in play, A.J. Brown reading books. Usually that means 200 yards. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. We never know. Who read a book and then had a good game the next week? We don't know. Nico Collins will have the most receiving yards this week. Buy or sell?
When I first saw this question, my first thought was, oh, this is nuts. There's no way he's going to do this. And then you just said, there aren't that many, top receivers here. All right. You take away McLaurin and St. Brown. I don't think Nakua has a big game. I think A.J. Brown's going to be targeted, but I don't think he has a huge game here. I don't like anybody in Buffalo or Baltimore. So Collins probably is top 3, top 4 here. That being said, I think either McLaurin or St. Brown maybe both do better than him. So this is going to be a sell for me. Collins going to have his opportunities here. But Kansas City also knows he's the only threat in that the Houston passing offense, right? They're going to try and lock him down and force C.J. Stroud to beat him with somebody else.
Yeah, I'm going to sell also. I'm going to take a shot because I just don't know who out of that Sunday night game will be the top guy. I'm going to take a shot on Kelsey having the most receiving yards this week. Yeah, I'm going to take a shot on that, like 140. 130. Yeah, I'm going to take my shot. The other shot that I would take, if not Kelsey, would be Jameson Williams on the line.
James Williams, good.
Yeah,
love that.
All right, finally, buy or sell. The Rams defense will hold the Eagles under 20 points. This has been a buy the last few weeks. The Eagles offense hasn't looked all that great. Buy or sell?
If it would have said 24, I'd have bought this. 20, I'm going to sell. I think I think the Eagles barely get over the total. Not much, barely get over the total. This is a 23-17 game, somewhere around there. I had the Eagles in the low 20s. Yeah, it's close, so I'm selling.
Yeah, I'll sell too. Yeah, I think the Eagles should put up 3 touchdowns. The only question is if Stafford makes a mistake and the Eagles get points off that, Sam, does that count? Like, does that count? Is it the offense?
It says the Eagles. Let's see the Eagles offense.
Yeah, over them. Yeah, I got to go over. That could happen by a safety. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. All right, coming up next, boy, there was one player in fantasy who had 280 fantasy points this season that is projected to be a second-round pick next season that you have no idea that he had this good of a year. I'll tell you who that is next.
This Sunday, the Rams carry the weight of their city when they face the Eagles. Then it's a clash of MVP-caliber quarterbacks. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. SportsGrid has you covered all day, starting at 8 a.m. with FST for daily fantasy lineups. Lock in your picks with Pro Football Today and stay dialed in with real-time betting on in-game live game day, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If I were that team and I was the coach, I would have just said, you know what? I'm leaving your ass at home, and you can wait. Well, you can get your own damn plane and fly it to Philadelphia, and then I'll still sit your ass. Zion's got to get himself together on the court, both physically, but mentally by being engaged and being on time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports. Today we're going to play a little fantasy football trivia as we get ready to wrap up the show here. And by the way, 10 o'clock Eastern, Pro Football Today, Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi. They are standing by. 4 o'clock Eastern, it's in-game live game day with Scott Wetzel and Joe Madden. And then tonight, it's Adam Kaufman and Brady Cannon during the Washington-Detroit showdown. George, there was a player in fantasy football who had 280 fantasy points this season. Sam gave a hint. He should not have done that, but he gave a hint. He's gone up significantly over the last 2 years. And honestly, it's stunning to see. I did not realize this player had as good of a year as he did. Who is this player?
Yeah, now Sam said it was somebody in the NFC South that would go in the second round next year. So it's got to be somebody who's a decent name here. First guy was Mike Evans that came to mind, but I'm guessing it's not him because that'd be too easy.
You know who it is. Stop playing.
I don't know. I'm guessing. Drake London comes to mind.
See, Sam, why'd you give him that? You should not have given him. You should have made him work a little harder. You should have said he was in the American League East. That's what you should have done. Aaron Jones. 178 fantasy points in 22, 174. George, he had 280 fantasy points? Did he even play this year? I mean, honestly, I don't know.
He was on a couple of my fantasy teams. Thank you, Drake. You were good.
You had him? I appreciate it. You had him? I didn't have him anywhere. Yeah?
I had him, I think, he was a keeper in my home league. It's kept him in the 9th round. Another league I had him as well. I don't know. I don't remember where I drafted him, but he was expected to have a decent year. Not a great year, more of a wide receiver 2.
Am I wrong? Call me crazy. Am I wrong? Did he have 4 great games and nothing else all year? Is that what happened with him? Because I don't recall him being consistent.
More consistent. I think that's why. I think he's more consistent. That's why you don't remember him because he had 12 to 15 points every week.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. All right, we got to get out of here, folks, because Pro Football Today, they're standing by, and they've stolen all our content for the next show, by the way. I cannot believe it. They're just going to say everything that we just said. It's not fair. Feels like we should just do the next show. Yeah. Time now for the SportsGrid 60.
Yeah, we heard NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell over the last couple of days saying, hey, it's just a matter of time till we have 18 regular season games. Where we had 16, then we went up to 17, had 18, 20-game schedule works out well with 2 preseason games. I know the players don't want this, and it's not fair to them because it's an extra game, bad on their bodies. As a fan, though, I'm all for this, Greg. I got to tell you, I love the idea. All right, add an extra game, kill as much of February as possible. The worst sports month for me is after football's over. All right, spring training is close, but even that's a tease until baseball really begins here. So kill as much as February as possible. I think the Super Bowl should be played on President's Day week. This way, you're going to do it on Sunday. Everybody has Monday for the most part. Everybody has Monday off, so that's what I root for here. So it's unfair. No doubt it's unfair for the players. And by the way, Goodell can't do this on his own. It has to be negotiated through the CBA, and that CBA isn't up until 2031 anyway. But I do think this is just a matter of time till we go to an 18-game regular season and maybe 2 bye weeks for everybody.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a great call. All right, I want to end the show the way that we kind of started the show, which is my farewell to Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. For those of you who know us, me and George, for doing fantasy baseball, you're getting that soon, folks. That's coming very, very soon, and we'll be covering that. But naturally, it's not often that an icon in sports passes away, and we have the opportunity to talk about it. I was so fortunate to meet Bob Uecker on several occasions. I mean, Bob was not my best friend, and honestly, I don't know that he would remember me, but certainly I would remember the moments that I spent with him. The Brewers in the old days, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, the iconic broadcasters like Uecker used to travel on the road. You're seeing a lot of differences now in broadcasters. Some don't travel on the road anymore. And Uecker was a guy, I think about a decade ago, that stopped going anywhere except I think he went to Chicago, and that's about it. But he did go to Miami several times. I had a chance to meet him several times. I had a chance to have a lunch with him in the press box more than once, too. I tweeted that out on social media the other day. Rest in peace, man. Just one of a kind, an incredible personality that was not only in baseball, but in entertainment as well. Thanks again, George. Great show with you. I'll see you next week for the championship weekend. I hope you enjoy the games this weekend.
Absolutely. Hope everybody else enjoys the games this weekend as well.
All right. For George and for our producer, Sam, I'm Craig Mish. Pro Football Today is coming up next. So a lot of intriguing news, notes, and information for the AFC and NFC divisional round games. As George said, enjoy the football, folks. See you back next week.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.